I know I'm only on one day a week. I get it. I'm gonna have to jump on GarageBand and start sawing something together. This is the House Bar Show, wow, and then a guitar note, and then with progressive, and all. Yeah, it's gonna be good.
Hey, Hal, did you mean something like this?
This is the House Bar Show, wow, and a guitar note, and then with progressive, and all. Yeah, it's gonna be good.
The Hal Sparks radio program, mega worldwide.
Yeah, it's gonna be good. It is gonna be good. Sorry, because I was jammering.
Marsha
yes.
House is asking if you got the Cash App that she sent us on Thursday.
Yes, I believe so. I thought I said something to her on Thursday, but I apologize if I didn't because there were so many moving parts.
She just didn't want to keep sending stuff if I
wasn't getting it. Okay. That's. Yes, fear not, all's well.
Thanks, Marsha.
Yeah, and defund Wookie. Okay. There's sideline chat stuff that's always going on. It's just a lovely part of the entire conversation. I have to say that when we're talking about the nature of geopolitics currently, the number of moving parts right now, you know how everybody's complaining like the Glenn Becks of the world. Yesterday I covered the fact that Glenn Beck and Michelle Bachmann and OAN and all these sites are going nuts about changes to the WHO's rules in dealing with pandemic response going forward, as if this is it is right out of the Jade Helm Alex Jones playbook. The whole storyline is that we are giving over our sovereignty to the World Health Organization, and therefore China, which supposedly is going to have control over the WHO because the WHO was deferential to them in an attempt to kind of good cop their way into getting information from them, during the early part of the pandemic, when China was not telling the truth, was holding its cards very close to the chest, when they were not being forthcoming. The World Health Organization, knowing how the Chinese government works and everything, was trying to play good cop in getting this information out. Since Trump was effectively, the problem was he was playing good cop until it was too late. And so you had parallel good cops. Normally in this situation, you'd have the United States and maybe even the European Union wagging its finger and being the bad guy, and the WHO going, no, they'll give us the information, just be nice, this kind of thing. Because the regime over there is such that face is more important than reality in a lot of, especially in a year where Xi Jinping is looking to re-up his control over the country. And that was on, already that initial meeting that would lead up to the party conference that's this fall, was already on deck. And knowing this is why the initial doctor who announced on Chinese social media that there was this infection going around was effectively scrubbed from the internet, and he later died of COVID. Not good, and not a good sign from the WHO's standpoint. I tweeted out on my Twitter feed earlier today a document that I referenced yesterday, which is the changes in the WHO's rules around pandemic response going forward. And basically, it takes out all the stuff where everybody's got to report. You got 24 hours to report an outbreak that you recognize as having a possible global threat. If it's an inside your country, that's your problem. But if it's a highly transmissible disease and it's spreading state to state, more than likely it will spread when people fly overseas, you got to let everybody know. And if anybody else finds out about it and goes, hey, we know there's this outbreak and these cases are starting to show up in our country, they don't have to defer to that state to answer at their leisure later on. You got 24 hours to respond, or the rest of the countries can start taking issue with how you're handling it. They can't force the country internally to do anything, but England can say, okay, we're cutting off travel because they're not being forthcoming. Mexico has got something going on there, and they're not telling anybody, and they're not responding, and they're part of the WHO, but they're hiding what's going on there for some weird reason. They're denying it and running from it. So, they need to answer that, that information, because we have honest reports people who flew into our country who are ill, and this is a real thing. And so the WHO has just basically got 20. They don't have to allow the state to announce it first. They can announce it based on the best information they have and recommend, whether it's an emergency situation or not. Doesn't change the internal politics of any of the countries involved. It might change the external politics if a country refuses to be forthcoming about disease spread in the United States. And somehow all the right-wingers are clamoring this week. And if you look at the actual document of the proposed changes that the Biden administration has been working on for the WHO meeting that starts on Monday, it goes for a week where they work out what these new rules are going to be. These are the proposed changes by America. None of these issues, although they seem to be clamoring about them in the right wing, all of them are aimed at China and how China responded to COVID, how it hid it, how it downplayed it, how it dragged its feet in reporting it until it was absolutely pressured to, how it, internally was screaming to the high heavens and starting the process of what would be a zero COVID policy and lockdowns related to that, but outside the country saying it's not a big deal and it didn't come from here anyways, and all that nonsense. So meanwhile, the United States, if you look at the stories about monkeypox, for example, or remember the story of like the 3 cases of Ebola that we had, 8 years ago, or every time swine flu or H1N1 or H5N1 starts to come up, we don't do that. The United States is never going to be on the wrong side of these rules changes. As a matter of fact, we might err on the, to the extreme on the other side, but better to do that as an international hub of almost all business and travel in the world than not. And so the United States is on top of this stuff. And these new rules won't change that. As a matter of fact, the goal of those rules is to make everybody else who has an equivalent CDC-like body act like it. The United States, between the CDC, the NIH, and the myriad of like oversight bodies we have within Congress even, is constantly watching for the next, not just human to human or animal to human transmission of a disease, but agricultural diseases that could wipe out crops. That's the other huge part of this. It is, by the way, the reason we have collaborations with biolabs all over the world, including in Ukraine. And the primary ones about, in Ukraine where they were saying these biolabs for, as if bioweapon, as if just the word bio attached to anything means the same thing in every situation. The majority of the work done in biolabs in Ukraine, for example, is all about grain. Both in the United States, where you have a huge grain industry, and obviously everybody now knows about the breadbasket of Europe aspects of Ukraine. We share with them and they share with us stuff to keep our crops from dying off en masse because, as we're seeing from the tightening availability of food because of Russia invading Ukraine, starvation is a very real threat. And you can either treat it like an adult and act with other countries that you share trade with, because even though we have wheat in the United States, we have corn in the United States, we buy some wheat and corn products from Ukraine as well. So if they had a problem that would somehow be contagious to our wheat crops here in the United States, we would like to know about it. These are very simple, adult, normal things the Biden administration is doing that the right wing is now painting all positive, normal, governing aspects of just regular regulatory behavior to protect the American citizens and American businesses from the contagions that occur in just worldwide transfer in a very basic way, and painting those as not just overreach by government, but nefarious. And that's the essence of the current Republican Party. They have Alex Jones and Donald Trump their way into a corner where it's not just you disagree on policy, but there's a monster in every closet. We'll be back right after this. And I want to talk about Biden's pivot to Asia. He's on his first Asia trip and of his presidency. And the stuff that is happening is crucial. We'll be back. It's the House Parts Radio program, Mega Worldwide.